Dear students, we had come to know about the life of the writer with his grandmother in the previous part of this lesson, and at the end of that first part we also came to know that there were lots of changes regarding the life of the writer and his grandmother. So there was lot of gap between them, or they used to meet each other rarely, and thus we could see the changes that were there in the life of the writer and the grandmother. Okay, now we will start with the next part of the lesson. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel, spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon, she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. So here you come to know that the writer has already reached his university level of education, that is the higher education or the degree level of education. By the time what happened, he was given a separate room to stay, and therein again that link of their friendship was snapped. Snap means there was a complete seclusion between the grandmother and the grandson. So snap means it was taken away. So thus she accepted a seclusion. Seclusion is the state of being private and away from each other. So she accepted that seclusion with resignation. Means it's not so easy to accept it, but somehow she accepted it that she has to stay away from her grandson. She rarely left her spinning wheel. So later on, now their life itself started changing. The grandson was busy with his studies, and the grandmother, she started spending her time in spinning wheel, and she used to usually spend her time, and rarely she was leaving her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she used to sit on her spinning wheel, and she used to go on reciting her prayers. So whenever she used to spin, she used to also recite the prayers. Only in the afternoon, she used to make herself free, and she used to spend time feeding the sparrows. So this was her daily routine. Once she was completely separated, or the link between herself and her grandson was completely in a different way. While she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirpings. So here what happened? She used to sit there in the afternoon, and she used to in the veranda. Veranda is again the wide area in front of the house. So there she used to sit, and she used to break the bread into pieces to feed those sparrows. At that time, so many sparrows used to get collected there. Means they used to come there, and they used to be there, that is creating a veritable bedlam. Veritable means used for emphasis, often to quality, a metaphor. So it's a usage wherein you can tell it as the figure of speech here is the metaphor, or giving importance, lots of stress on that. Bedlam is a scene of uproar and confusion. Means there used to be so many sparrows there making sounds, which is felt as a confusion, or used to get the sound of those sparrows a lot. That is called as the veritable bedlam. So here lots of stress is given on that situation, wherein you can just imagine what used to be the situation. So many sparrows coming there and having that bread crumbs. So this is what is the situation that used to be created in the afternoon. And there lots of sparrows used to make sound, that is called as the chirrupings of the birds. Chirping and the chirrupings. So these are the usages, that is the sound made by the birds. Some came and perched on her legs, but she never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. So when she used to feed these sparrows, some of them used to come and sit on her lap. Perched is come and sit and just move their body or rub their body towards her lap or her body, and she used to never shoo them off. She used to never, what is that? Shoo them means she used to never ask to go away from there, or she used to never push them out from there. She used to enjoy it a lot. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. So she used to enjoy it a lot. It was the happiest half hour, means half an hour or very little time she used to spend happily, and that was the happiest part of her day. She used to enjoy it a lot. Before she used to feed the dogs, but after moving to the city she used to feed the sparrows, and this she used to enjoy a lot. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell. But my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of a rosary. Silently she kissed my forehead, and when I left I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. So now the another level in his life, that is, it was decided that he is going to abroad. Abroad means any other country. So going for his studies, that is further studies. So when this was decided, so for him also it was a situation which was disturbing, but he was also very sure that his grandmother is also getting upset. Yes, because it's a long period of living with each other, and that attachment from his younger age up to the age where he has finished his higher education, and that intimacy is now being disturbed a lot. So he felt that his grandmother is also upset, and he is telling that he would be away for 5 years. So 5 years of education out of the country, and at her age one could never tell. So here the grandmother is also not expressing anything. He is also not in a position to explain everything, because he knows that how much it is disturbing him and his grandmother. But my grandmother could. So she did not express any negative thoughts regarding his higher education or he going out of the country for that. But what was her expression? So she expressed in a positive way, that you can see here. She was not even sentimental. Sentimental is of or prompted by feelings of tenderness. She did not show any sadness on her face. That is called as sentimental. Or she did not give any negative expressions. She came to leave me at the railway station. So she also accompanied with him to the railway station. She did not talk or show any emotion. So she was in a positive way. But her lips went on reciting the prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. She was completely involved in the prayer. And the fingers were busy with the rosary, that is counting the beads. After that, she silently kissed on his forehead. And when I left, see, this is very important. When I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. So when she kissed him on his forehead, he tells that he cherished the moist imprint, means he could feel the immense love that she had towards him. So he cherished it. So he had that deep in his mind and he cherished it, and he also felt that it might be the last sign of physical contact between the grandmother and the grandson, because she is too old and he is also feeling emotional to leave her and go, but both of them are not directly expressing it, but he feels in his mind maybe this is a last sign of physical contact. So she may be alive or not alive. When he comes back, he is not sure. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes. So here, what he thought is, when he left to abroad or the other country, he thought that this may be his last contact, physical contact with this grandma, but it did not happen like that. She was alive when he came back, and she met him after 5 years in the station itself. She had also again gone to the station to bring him home, and he feels that she did not look a day older. Even though he was away from his grandmother for 5 years, he felt that she has not become a day older. She was still the same as she was. Now here, what is the scene is the same thing. She still had no time for words, means she did not speak anything, but she clasped him, means again hug him or hold him. So in her arms, and again he could hear the reciting of her prayers. So she was completely involved in the prayers. There is no change, but she just tried to hold him. Even on the first day of my arrival, so this day when he arrived home back, so he saw that her happiest moment was with the sparrows. So the whole day she used to spend spinning wheel, then praying, counting her beads, and she used to be normal. But the happiest time of her day is the time that she used to spend with the sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes. So she used to feed it very happily. What's the meaning here? Frivolous, of a person carefree and superficial. So she used to be very happily feeding those sparrows. So that is called as frivolous. Rebukes is an expression of sharp disapproval or criticism. So she used to always be happy without any criticism or disapproval. She used to happily spend time with those sparrows or go on feeding them the food. Never she had any problem regarding that process, because she used to enjoy the company of the sparrows. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum and started to sing. For several hours, she thumbed the sagging skin of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of the warrior. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. So now here there is a change in her routine. What is that change? In the evening, a change came over. So she did not pray in that evening. So there was a change. She called all the women from her neighborhood and she got one old drum that was almost an old one and started singing. For several hours, she thumbed the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum. So she went on, what is that? Playing that is thumb means going on playing that drum which was very old, means that's its outer cover that was already very old, or it was sagging like the very old skin, and it was dilapidated. Dilapidated means in a state of ruin. It was almost the old one. It was completely destroyed one. So she was going on playing it and sang of the homecoming of the warrior. So she was singing a song about the homecoming, means the warrior, the soldier who has gone for the war or who is in his duty was coming back or getting back to his homeland. Regarding that, she was going on singing the song. We had to persuade her to stop. We tried to persuade, means we wanted to make her know that she has to stop and she has to avoid overstraining. So it was really straining her a lot because she was continuously singing, and we went on telling her and we wanted her to know that she had to stop it. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. That was the first time since he has seen her. He never saw her without doing prayer, but that day she did not pray to God. The next morning she was taken ill. It was a mild fever and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. So now the grandmother was not well. Next morning she was ill. So in the previous day evening, she just went on singing and she was also overstrained, and the next day morning she was ill and she had got mild fever. The doctor told that it is fine, she'll be okay, but her thought was completely different. So what did she tell, or what was her opinion? That her end is come, that is she is near to her death. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. That is the reason she did not pray the previous evening, because she tells that she is almost near to her death, and that's why she left it. Omitted means she did not perform any rituals or prayers to God. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. So now she did not talk anything because already she is feeling tired and she is telling that she is to the end of her life. We protested, but she ignored our protests. She lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face and we knew that she was dead. So when she told that she is already going to die, we were not ready to accept it. We protested it. Means we were against that, but she never bothered. She just ignored our protest. Whatever we were telling, she never gave any answer to that. She did not listen to that. She lay peacefully on the bed. She was lying there, and what was she doing? She was just counting the beads of a rosary, and she was praying to God. And before these all could suspect, yes, they also were thinking about what she told. So before they used to suspect, or they could suspect, what happened? Her lips stopped moving. So the prayers, what she was reciting, it stopped. The rosary fell down, means the beads, the string of beads also fell down from her lifeless fingers. So thus they came to know that the grandmother is no more. A peaceful pallor, an unhealthy pale appearance. So on the face, because of that death, so there was a pale appearance, peaceful. So you could see that there also she was very peaceful, spread on her face, and we knew that she was dead. So this is the end of his grandmother's life. The sun was setting and had lit a room and veranda with the blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in the courtyard. All over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff wrapped in the red shroud, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirruping. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs the way my grandmother used to, and threw it at them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So one thing we saw is the grandmother is dead. But after that, you could see the changes even when it came to the life of the sparrows. So here the writer is telling the sun was setting. So it is in the evening. That is almost it was going to get dark, and it had lit a room and veranda with the blaze of golden light. As the sun was setting, so there was light in a room because of the blaze golden light of the sun. Almost the bright light which is getting reduced. So this is the situation there. We stopped halfway in the courtyard. So we were all there in the courtyard, all over the veranda and in a room right up to where she lay dead and stiff wrapped in the red shroud. So this light was also there, visible all over the veranda, and also in the room where she was there, or she was lying there dead, who was stiff, means there was no movement because of the death, and she was covered with the red shroud. Red shroud means the piece of cloth which will be tied very tightly, especially on the dead body, the dead body that is covered tightly. That cloth is called as the shroud. So this shroud, that is red shroud, and the sparrows started coming. At that time, thousands of sparrows, they came there in that veranda where she used to feed them. They all scattered on the floor because they used to come there to have food. But that day, at this time, they were there, and there was no chirruping, there was no sound of the birds, and they were all silent. The mother felt very sorry for that. Whose mother? Writer's mother. And that's why, what did she do? She went and brought some breadcrumbs. She made it into pieces and tried to feed them. But it was really a astonished situation, or a surprising thing happened there. That is, the sparrows did not eat anything. Even though the mother went on throwing the breadcrumbs as his grandmother used to do, but even then it did not eat. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. When the body was taken away, when they carried the corpse is nothing but a dead body, especially of the human being. So when that was carried off for the last rituals, the birds also flew away quietly. Next day, the sweeper who was there for cleaning, so he cleaned off or she cleaned off the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So this is the end of the life of his grandmother. So her attachment towards that sparrows, and she used to be very happy with them. Those sparrows were also very disturbed by seeing that the grandmother is no more. Very short story, but it gives us lots of information regarding the relationship between the writer and his grandmother, and this is really the part of our life which most of us have to balance, or we always experience this. Some of us have already experienced this part of life. You being the children of 9th standard, maybe you are also having very good times with your grandparents, and always try to cherish this part of your life, because once they are no more, it will be only the experience that they would have given us, or it will be just the remembering part of our life, or we'll be just recalling it. So we should cherish most of the time that we get to spend with the grandparents, because they'll have lots of experience and they are concerned towards the grandchildren that cannot be measured in any ways. Sometimes they may scold us, sometimes they may punish us, but they'll be always having a loving feelings regarding the grandchildren, and we get to learn a lot from our grandparents. So here the writer has given us a very beautiful story that tells his experience with this grandmother and the friendship and the way they used to lead life and the last rituals of his grandmother. Everything tells us the attachment between the grandson and the grandmother. Read the lesson again and again. Try to understand it and try to answer the questions that are given in your textbooks by yourself, and the notes will also be given to you. Thank you.